conspiracies. Peering into darkness is what we do. Derek and Sharon Gilbert break it all down for you.
Welcome to the program. I am the aforementioned Derek Gilbert.
And that makes me Sharon Gilbert, and welcome back. We haven't done PID radio in weeks.
And now we've come back, and after 20 years, we finally have our own jingle.
Finally.
Oh, it's
we want to thank
time.
the AI voice that put that together.
Yes, it's
sounds really good.
It's an app called Suno, S-U-N-O.
Yeah.
That friends of ours who are professional musicians have been making use of to great effect. This was the result of about 45 seconds worth of prompt, and it came up with this. It's like, well, there we are.
Isn't that amazing? Well, yeah, it's pretty cool. We want to thank all of you, by the way, for tuning in and being so faithful, waiting for us to finally produce a new one.
Well, yeah, we've been away for a little while and then dealing with the after effects of some sort of mutant alien virus that
we've
I
had
picked
a
up
cold.
on the...
That it's not been a huge thing. It's a lot of postnasal drip. Early on when I had it, first got it, it was a lot of coughing and then a bit of sneezing. All that's gone, still affecting my voice just a bit. And still my hearing is about 70% back. Eustachian tubes are closed.
Yeah. Well, it was something that I picked up on the flight on the way over to Israel. We will talk about our Israel tour during this program and some things that have come out about one of the sites we saw on the tour.
Yeah.
On the flight over there was a fellow next to me, God bless him, who was hacking and coughing for 12 straight hours. And
no, he did not cough into his elbow. He did not do that.
No, he shared it with the plane. And I then dutifully turned around and shared it with the 31 other
and this
brave
was
souls
even
who joined
though
us on
you
the
were
bus.
coughing into your elbow, which is what we're taught to do. It's highly communicable, which is why Derek and I have tried to lie low, not be around a whole lot of people. However, Derek did do some recording for a future documentary that we may be able to tell you a bit about later on. But for now, the news.
Yeah, well, again, we went to Israel. We were there between the 17th and the 30th.
You and I got back on the 31st.
Yeah.
And we actually got home on the 1st of November because we're old. And we like to stay overnight, especially since we'd gone 36 hours without
the return
sleep.
flight is about 36 hours. From the time we left the hotel in Jerusalem to the time that we actually got to the hotel in Springfield, Missouri, was 36 hours. And given that during that time, your sleep schedule is just totally messed up. And
I can't sleep on a plane.
Shift back. We actually shifted back 9 time zones because on the way out, thunderstorms across the Mid-South from Dallas through Springfield, Missouri, caused us to miss our connecting flight. So
everything had to be rebooked.
Rebooked in a hurry, and Brenda at Lipkin Tours did a masterful job of that. Instead of flying on El Al, which is the Israeli airline, we wound up flying on the national airline of the United Arab Emirates.
Etihad.
Yeah, which actually turned out to be an excellent airline.
Really great airline.
Yeah.
Really wonderful flight attendants. I mean, beautiful, comfortable. I can't say enough nice things about it. We didn't get to explore very much in Dubai. But
Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi, sorry. In Abu Dhabi, that's right. But
the airport
did get to see the airport,
fabulous.
which is glorious. It's only 2 years old. So it was really, really nice. And I just want to do a shout out to all of the folks out there who push the transport chairs, the wheelchairs in these airports. Derek and I are now at a position where he needs to take a ride while I either walk very fast or we both get to ride in one of those nice little cars. The people who push Derek through the airports are incredible. They are really sweet to talk to. They're fascinating when you start hearing their histories.
Oh, yeah.
One young man who's from Nigeria.
Yeah, Matthew.
Yeah, Christian.
Yep.
And he was telling us about the activities there.
His father's a
lots of
pastor.
other, yes, exactly. Lots of really interesting people. So we just want to say thank you to all of you who are doing that sort of service.
Right. I mean, I can get around okay for basic things. But when it comes to having to travel through an airport, long distance, and it's not just the mobility issue, it's that we discovered about 6 weeks ago, because I'd been dealing with shortness of breath and wanted to know what was going on there, my physician's office ordered a chest x-ray, and we discovered that I've got an elevated hemidiaphragm. In plain speak, it means the diaphragm on the left side of my body.
Doesn't move.
Yeah, it's stuck in the up position.
Yeah, therefore the left lung doesn't really work correctly.
Yeah. So I'm only working with about 1 or maybe 1.5 lungs at most. So when I'm walking around, and then that made Israel a little more difficult, because then on top of that I was dealing with the congestion from the cold and the sinus infection that resulted from it.
Well, another shout out to all the people who were with us on that tour. Many of you literally stepped up when I was helping Derek around and said, "Can I help?"
Because there were some fellows there who were a little, beefy and burly.
And there were also places you needed to go now and then that, frankly, women weren't allowed because it said men on the door.
Yeah.
So in that case, they were happy to go in and help out with that. Because if for any reason you have difficulty, you can't shout out through the door, "Sharon, I need help."
Yeah.
But they were there, whether you need it or not. It's just nice to know someone is there. As we age,
that was really a blessing.
We become more and more dependent upon the people around us, which I think is a really wonderful picture of the body of Christ. Because whether we're sick or healthy, we are to be there for one another.
Right.
There are times when we all need help. You can be really young and dealing with health issues, or you can be any age and deal with just not feeling happy that day.
Yeah. And you don't really appreciate what it's like to be in that situation until you find yourself in that situation yourself. And there were some instances, and part of the neurological stuff I'm going through is that it's now starting to affect my fingers, my hands. So
so far you can still type.
Yeah, so far I can still type, which is good. The book is coming along, and but when it comes to buttons, snaps, and zippers, things can be difficult. And I will confess, there was one point where I needed to, need a little bit of help. Yeah, and didn't actually have to call somebody into the room to help, but it was getting pretty dire. So anyway, when you get into that situation, you realize that you're beginning to be dependent on somebody else, or you're just one simple, misstep away from having to live in an assisted living situation. It's really humbling.
And while we're talking about that, and then we'll get to the news, forgive us for talking. In fact, let's just go ahead and get to the news, and then we'll have the old people report at the end, because I know many of you, you're probably really young, and thank you for listening. If you are really young, we appreciate that, because we're sort of hokey and maybe not to the taste of a lot of young listeners, but we'll do that at the end.
Sure. Well, one of the places we visited while we were in Israel was Shiloh.
Got to go there on my birthday.
Yes, celebrated that on your birthday, as well as Joshua's altar, which is really
I know.
Lipkin Tours the day before was able to pull strings with the IDF, because we didn't think we were going to get to go to Joshua's altar this year.
I know. We were we'd learned to live with the idea that we weren't going to get to go. So last minute, all of a sudden they said, "Do you want to go?" And the IDF soldiers who were part of our escort, they were kind enough to give you a Jeep ride, and I got to ride along too.
Yes. So the road most of the way is now paved most of the way to the altar, but you still have to walk that last stretch up the hill to where the altar is located. And because of the uneven terrain, the loose rock and things, which even a year and a half ago, I would have been able to navigate. But
It's still tricky.
it's still tricky, and so they took us up there in Toyota's equivalent of a Hummer, and that was very nice. And so anyway, got to celebrate your birthday at Joshua's altar, and then Shiloh and the Red Heifers, of course.
I know. I got
Or
to
at
see
Shiloh.
them on my birthday, which was really neat. Now,
Yeah.
I did not personally take pictures of them because I wanted to. It was toward the end. We were all being called to the bus. But many of the folks who were with us took pictures, and so we've been able to access those. And if you want to see pictures of the red heifer, what's a good way for them to do that? Will you share any of those on your Telegram channel, or?
Yeah, I can do that. And by the way, if you've not subscribed to our Telegram channels, you can do that. There's a Gilbert House Ministries Telegram channel, and we'll post it there. We also have individual Telegram channels. Sharon's is called The Armored Sheep. Mine is View from the Bunker. But, yeah.
Is there Gilbert House?
Gilbert House Ministries, yeah.
Okay.
And we share basically whatever we do through Gilbert House Ministries, PID Radio, our weekly Bible study, when we resume the Bible's greatest mysteries, but also the links to the Substack articles that we post 3 times a week.
You also, by the way, can download our app, and you can get everything we do on our app.
Yeah,
Are there links to
Video
the blog
content.
posts
There are.
as well?
yeah, and that links directly to the Substack account. So
Excellent.
that will get you to all of those articles. And right now we're working our way through the book, The Gates of Hell.
Oh, yeah.
So that was our 2024 book, and we're publishing excerpts from that. I'm finding that we get more reaction to excerpts that range from like 1,500 to 2,000 words apiece, something you can read in 5 or 10 minutes, as opposed to putting out the whole book. It's like, here's our 400-page book with 500 footnotes, and it's like, okay, but you put out an article, and then people start discussing it, and it's like, okay, well, the content's out there, and you get it for free.
Yeah, we don't
So,
charge for the Substack.
GilbertHouse.substack.com. But
If,
anyway,
however, you think, well, I'd really like to help them out and support their ministry, you can do that.
yeah, we have a donate page at gilberthouse.org, and we truly appreciate that. That has
So
been
much.
really a help.
So much. But yeah, the red heifers, there was a story about them in the news this morning.
Yeah, well, this past week, the Temple Institute, which is the group that has been actively soliciting donations to
For
help them build the third temple.
pretty much 20 years or more.
Yeah. They've been around for a while, and they're the main organization that is advocating for the construction of the third temple. They've got architectural drawings. There's a 3D video tour that you can take, and they're the ones who brought over from Texas a group named Byron Stinson and Boneh Israel. His group brought over 5 red calves for the Temple Institute, and 4 of them still remain at Shiloh, where if you go to Israel, you go to Shiloh, you can actually see them. But the Temple Institute put out a public statement because, and I mentioned this on 5 and 10, and I think we talked about it here on PID Radio, back on July 1st, one of the red heifers was prepared and burned at an undisclosed location in Samaria. Now, that's part of what the world calls the West Bank. They didn't disclose where it was because they knew that this would be a really touchy subject, not just for the Palestinian Authority and the Arabs in the region, but also for Jews who are not really eager to construct a third temple because of the political ramifications.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Well, in fact, Hamas claimed
right.
that it was the red heifer issue that led to October 7's invasion.
Exactly, yeah. The red heifers were brought over in September of 22, and of course Hamas attacked in October of 23, 13 months later. So, no, that was just an excuse. But CBS News ran the story as though, hey, we found it, this is the real reason. No, Hamas was...
Not being
Hamas lies.
quite honest.
Anyway, there were a lot of stories that came out once news of the the trial run on July 1st. And there were those who said, no, this wasn't actually a trial run. This was the real deal, and now they've got the ashes. So the third temple is going to happen any minute now. No, the Temple Institute statement reads as follows, and I'm not going to read word for word, but I'll summarize the points. Point number one, for about 10 years, the Temple Institute has been engaged in preparations for producing the ashes of the red heifer, the observance of these commandments, the raising of a red heifer according to Torah law, and the production of kosher ashes for the purification of the ritually impure is very complex, and includes thousands of details which require great knowledge and skill in execution.
Thousands of details? That seems a little bit now, like hyperbole.
The actual biblical description of the ritual in Numbers chapter 19 is actually pretty simple. Mm-hmm. But over the 3,400 years since the writing of Numbers chapter 19, and especially since the destruction of the temple in the year 70 by the Romans, the rabbis have come up with a bunch of other rules that have to be followed. Anyway, point number two. About 3 months ago, a practice was held in the Sumerian mountains in which a simulation of the making of the ashes of the red heifer was conducted. Point three. Of course, ashes of the red heifer that are not made on the Mount of Olives while facing the site of the Holy Temple are completely invalid. And then it cites a couple of the teachings. One is from the Mishnah, one is from one of the writings of Maimonides or Rambam. Mm-hmm. Therefore, we clarified that the simulation was only, they emphasize the word only, an exercise, part of a series of exercises that were, and with God's help, will continue to be conducted before we are properly prepared to fulfill the mitzvah according to the Torah commandments. The act was not kosher for additional reasons, including a heifer was chosen for the exercise whose overall color was red, but nevertheless the most invalid and unkosher of the heifers in our possession. Its tail was damaged. So it was not, a perfect red heifer. Likewise, the priestly garments worn by the Kohen conducting the practice exercise were not consecrated, and so on. So in other words, it's saying, okay, it was not kosher.
Right.
Point four, for this reason, the ashes were mostly left by us in place without any care on our part. We did collect samples of the ashes by people who were temel met, meaning imperfect due to contact with a corpse. Mm-hmm. So not allowed, and are therefore rendered ineligible for performing this mitzvah only for the purpose of checking whether the equipment we have is suitable for the task. Point five, anyone who claims otherwise, that the heifer was kosher and the ashes produced from it are kosher for the purposes of purification, is mistaken and misleading, either intentionally or unintentionally.
Okay. It is.
Two more points.
Okay.
Point six, there are currently 4 red heifers at the Shiloh site, which we saw, some of which are owned by Rabbi Ariel, head of the Temple Institute. Their halakhic status, in other words, their suitability, has not yet been definitively determined, and we are monitoring them. Now, I had read previously that they'd all been disqualified.
That's what I had read, too. Yeah. Is there another one?
One final point, point 7, because 7's the number of completions, so you got to have 7 points. The real red heifer will be made, God willing, when we have a kosher red heifer according to the opinion of the rabbis of the Temple Institute and the rabbis they consult with, and when we are ready in all other aspects of the matter. This is a long process that requires patience and perseverance. Okay,
there are a number of issues that I would like to bring up. And A, this is overkill as far as I'm concerned from them.
They doth protest too much?
Yes, exactly. Well, the Temple Institute, as you and I have discussed on PID Radio before, appears to be loath to actually fulfill its mission.
Yes. Back in 2019, when we went to Israel with Messianic Rabbi Zev Porat and Pastor Carl Gallups, they went to the Temple Institute. In fact, we all visited the Temple Institute. Mm-hmm. They've got a nice display there with a model of what the third temple will look like and so on.
They talked to the management, so to speak,
Yeah.
those in charge of receiving donations.
Well, I don't know if they talked to anyone in management. They talked to a receptionist and asked the question, what would it take
Okay,
in terms
when
of...
Carl, if I'm misremembering, then excuse me, but when Carl was telling us about it, I remember Carl saying that they asked to talk to someone more important.
They did, right.
And they did.
Okay, then I'm misremembering.
But basically, dressed up, pastor from America, which is perceived as everybody's
Somebody
rich.
with money. Yeah.
And he says, I got my checkbook. What do you need to complete everything now?
Yeah. If I were to write a check, what would it take to do everything right now?
Bottom line is they couldn't give him a number because they didn't want to give him a number.
Yeah. How much do you have?
How much do you have? How much
Yeah.
can you give us? They wanted an infinite amount of money without ever actually saying, yes, we'll complete it. Because I don't think they want to complete it.
Yeah. The sense that they came away with, and this was their
This
assessment.
is their opinion.
Yeah, was that the funds that are being solicited by well-meaning Western Christians and Chinese Christians who are
a lot
also
of them, yes.
donating a lot of money, is to fund the political influence, basically a political action committee. That's not what they call them in Israel, but essentially to fund political parties, and that would be to, well, for whatever political aims the Temple Institute and those who support it have.
Right. So it's a never-ending stream of donations as far as they're concerned.
Yeah. Israel is as divided as the United States. I think there are some Christians here in the United States who have it in their minds that Benjamin Netanyahu rules Israel with an iron fist, that he is essentially the dictator who tells the government of Israel what to do. And that is just not the case. Avi Lipkin describes Israel's political situation like this. Israel is 60% conservative, 20% Arab, meaning that they will essentially lean towards whatever the Palestinian causes are. And
they have representation in the Knesset.
Yes, they do. And actually, Israel is probably closer to 25% Arab and 20% socialist. Now, Israel, when it was founded, the initial Zionist movement...
You just add it up to 105 if you go 25%.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So, say 55% conservative. But the socialists who made up the original settlers of Israel when they emigrated from Russia in the late 19th century and from Europe after the 1940s, 30s and 40s, a lot of them leaned socialist. They were mainly secular, not religious Jews. And they are hanging on to power like crazy. The governments of Israel, until the rise of Likud 25, 30 years ago with Netanyahu and Ariel Sharon prior to him, were mainly the equivalent of the Democratic Party here in the U.S. or the Labour Party in the U.K. Very left-leaning and mostly socialist. They resent the fact that they've been pushed out of power, but they still occupy the positions of power in the judicial system of Israel, which is not reined in by a constitution, because Israel doesn't have one, and the upper levels of the military.
What is Netanyahu's party?
Likud.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So you're saying that his
it wasn't
party...
until the rise of Likud that pushed the left wing out of power.
Okay, but just to clarify, if you're sitting there thinking, hold on, the Likud party is equivalent to the Labor/Democrats.
No. What I'm saying is the other parties, the left.
Oh, okay.
Party,
Sorry.
Prior to Likud, the governments were the equivalent of the Democrats or Labor.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because I thought I heard you say Likud is, but
No.
My impression was Likud was really more like the Republicans.
Yeah. And much of the support of Likud, because they don't hold a majority, because Israel is a multi-party system, but in order to form a government, you've got to have a coalition that has a majority in the Knesset.
Yeah.
So you got to have at least 61 members of the 120 seats in the Knesset. Many of those, at least there are enough seats in his coalition that are occupied by the far right, either nationalist far right, guys like Itamar Ben-Gvir, Bezalel Smotrich, and their parties, or the Haredim, the ultra-Orthodox parties. And the ultra-Orthodox don't want to serve in the military. They've been exempt since Israel became a nation in 1948. They don't want to be drafted into the military. There are some who volunteered, and there are some ultra-Orthodox units in the IDF now. But this is provoked a lot of pushback from both the conservative nationalists like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir and their supporters, the more conservative but not quite as hard right like the Likud party, and the people on the left who are irritated that the ultra-Orthodox don't have to serve in the military and they're essentially living off the state because they get paid to go to yeshiva and study.
Yeah.
And the ultra-Orthodox, their position is, look, it's our prayers to Hashem that keep Israel protected.
Yeah, well, I would say take a look at the Old Testament. You'll see that the Levites were warriors too.
Right. So the bottom line is that Israel is splintered and divided, even more so, if not at least as much as the United States, if not more so.
Well, since you said the United States, let's sort of go to a tangential story. And that is that the United States, allegedly, but it's a report that's out there, plans to build a big base in Gaza.
Oh, yeah. That they're saying is going to cost about $500 million, $500 million. And this is not making some Israelis happy that they're saying, hey, wait a minute, we're becoming essentially a colony of the United States.
Yeah, well, that is not true. No. But you can understand, I guess, especially if you're not a fan of Trump. Speaking of people who aren't fans of Trump while you're looking something up, I saw a story this morning that psychiatrists and psychologists are now saying that about 60 to 70% of their patients are in there for Trump derangement syndrome.
I saw that. Yeah. The guy who was quoted in the article has a practice in New York City, I think Long Island or Manhattan it was. He said that one of his patients said she couldn't enjoy her vacation because she saw Trump on a television screen and it triggered her. Like, grow up. We conservatives survived 16 years of Obama and Joe Biden.
We're still dealing with the Obamas. In fact, Michelle Obama's been on a book tour saying some of the most outlandish things. And I suspect that her PR firm is just saying, look, say these things because it's going to get you in
the press.
The news.
Yeah.
Things like, well, it takes more time to do her hair because she has to straighten it, simply because it's expected that she have Caucasian hair. She can't go swimming and she can't go to the gym because she's expected to have Caucasian hair. And if her hair gets wet from sweat or from the water, it's curly. I shared that story on X and I said, well, look, honey, own your hair, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
I think that black women who just let their hair go natural, they are incredibly stylish and beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, why on earth are you ruining your hair trying to look like something else?
Yeah.
And as you said, if it were the opposite,
well, yeah,
it would be cultural appropriation.
Well, exactly. It's
look, just
rules for thee, not for me.
Glory in the hair you're given. Again, it's gorgeous.
Yeah. What I was looking up was back to the Gaza story that Central Command is denying the report.
Well, who released it?
It was a news organization in Israel citing Israeli officials who were unidentified.
In other words, rumor?
Well, yeah, it may be the...
Anonymous sources say.
Yeah. Shamrim which is the news site from Israel, citing
undisclosed
unnamed
sources.
Israeli officials that the U.S. would build a $500 million base near the Gaza border, and this base would house several thousand troops who would be tasked with maintaining the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas.
If this is not true, then is it possible that this story was released to further weaken Netanyahu's position?
Could be,
Because
and
he's seen
also
as a
drive
big buddy.
another wedge in the political right in the United States, because that has become a real point of contention, especially, and this is strange that this was the trigger for this, the death of Charlie Kirk, the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
I know there are so many things happening in the world. One of them, and we've talked about this quite a bit, so forgive us for repeating things, but we're old and that's what we do. When you get old, you repeat things. But we're repeating it because it's important.
Yeah.
The rise of almost rabid anti-Semitism worldwide, starting with October 7 of 23,
Yeah.
it's off the charts.
It is.
And the Charlie Kirk thing seems to have increased it even more.
Well, yeah, because I'll say her name, Candace Owens, really put it out there very quickly thereafter that, Charlie Kirk was changing his opinion on Israel, and so therefore the only ones who stood to gain by his death is Israel, which makes no sense whatsoever.
No, none. In fact, she keeps claiming that she's got the receipts, so to speak, that she has records to prove it. She's not produced them.
She's not produced any. No, she keeps what has happened since Charlie's death on October 16th. It was September, wasn't it? I'm forgetting the date
it's been
now.
that long ago.
It's been it's been a couple of months. Is that it's pushed her podcast now into the #1 slot ahead of Joe Rogan.
So she's going to double down on it.
She's gotten a lot of clicks out of this. She is now. She went to Israel, and then she's saying Turning Point USA wasn't being forthcoming enough, and so maybe there's something suspicious there. And she said, this really seems like an inside job. I don't know, but I know. I don't know, but she's even put that on T-shirts now. You can buy merch that says, I know, or what. It's, and I know there are some who've been defending her, saying, well, you got to watch her whole program. You got to watch all of her shows. You're criticizing her just based on clips taken out of context. It's like, no, there've been enough clips that the context is pretty clear. She is the only one who really cares about Charlie Kirk. Turning Point doesn't care. Erica Kirk doesn't care. Nobody cares like Candace Owens does. But somehow this keeps coming back to Israel and the Jews.
If she cared so much about Turning Point, she would still be with Turning Point.
Well, yeah, but
she has been an ex-Turning Point person for some time.
And I think her view on Israel, and let me just add this one thing. When you watch her in context and watch long form, Jesus said you would know a tree by its fruit.
Yeah.
And when you watch her, she always seems angry or bitter or resentful. And anyone who disagrees with her, like she's in a public spat now with Allie Beth Stuckey, who is a young woman, very openly Christian, who has called out Candace on some of her things, but she always seems rather happy, joyful. And if you'll notice, with our new jingle here, we've been criticized. We've been criticized for not taking things seriously enough because we dare to laugh while we're talking about these things. But Candace always seems angry. And I think her conversion to the sedevacantist strain of Roman Catholicism, sedevacantist meaning they believe that every pope since Vatican II is illegitimate. So the chair is empty. That's what sedevacant means. The Roman Catholic Church until 1965 still had the reference to the perfidious Jews in its liturgy on Good Friday.
Yeah.
So they only stopped blaming the Jews for the death of Jesus about 60 years ago. So for most of the Roman Catholic history, they blamed the Jews.
For the record,
yeah,
it is our sin that placed him there.
Are we supposed to believe that things would be better if Jesus hadn't died on the cross in accordance with the scriptures for our sins?
Exactly.
No, of course not. So anyway, that, and then she's got, there are some others out there, a guy named Ian Carroll who's going down the same road. Tucker Carlson, who said that he dislikes Zionist Christians more than anything else, anyone else. That has driven a wedge in the MAGA movement, if you will, because you've got those who believe that, hey, look, the Israelis are every bit as imperfect and flawed as we are. They squabble, they fight, and some of them do really dumb things. You've got groups of these young rowdies, what they call the hilltop youth, these settlers, who are committing acts of violence against some of the Palestinian Arabs. Of course, that goes both ways, where you've got the Palestinian Arabs who are doing things that require IDF intervention.
It's tribe against tribe.
Tribe against tribe, and that's been ongoing there in that part of the world now for 100 years.
It's been ongoing worldwide. And it's what Jesus told us would be a sign of the last days.
Exactly. So we are seeing it ramping up. And I think since October 7th, we can see for the first time a plausible scenario where a dynamic young leader rises up and pulls together a global coalition to go to get to war against Israel.
Oh, yeah.
Said, hey, you wouldn't stop. You're committing genocide. Now we're going to make you stop.
There are so many things, ethnos against ethnos, which is what Jesus actually said in the Greek.
Yeah.
Tribe against tribe is what that, nation against nation, but it's talking about tribal warfare. We're seeing that beginning in Europe because the EU has allowed so many quote-unquote immigrants in, and these immigrants do not want to assimilate. They're essentially military-age young men who are there, and many of them are committing acts of, personal space being invaded in ways that lead to sometimes loss of life. The R word, I can't say on YouTube, but assaults with the R word.
Yeah.
It's worldwide, but seems to it in many ways Europe was sort of had settled in post World War II, and none of that had happened, but now it's happening.
Yeah.
But it's as if the Ottomans are rising again and taking territory that they lost in the 19th century. Yeah,
and territory that they tried to gain in the 16th and 17th centuries and didn't quite get, because there were two sieges of Vienna by the Ottomans that were unsuccessful in the 1500s and again in 1683 with King Jan Sobieski and the winged hussars.
I know. Every time you say his name, I just suddenly picture him flying down. He was somewhat sizable and needed a special horse and a special saddle, but he could still lead a charge.
Yeah. That was the riders of Rohan had nothing on Jan Sobieski.
Oh, I know.
So, that is we are living in those days now where this may, where we could see it coming to pass, a plausible scenario.
Speaking of the last days, and if you've got another news story, forgive me, but I want to mention this really quickly. One of the books I've been reading in research for the next few installments in the Red Wing saga, I've got at least one character who's going to be, in need of deliverance, because that character is possessed. So I've been reading Hostage to the Devil by Malachi Martin.
Oh, yeah.
It is a must-read. If you want to understand what can happen in spiritual warfare, we're talking Ephesians 6:12 writ large. And there are a variety, there are 5 cases that he covers in this, and his book is based on movies that were taken, recordings that were taken, diary entries, interviews that he made conducted with the victim as well as the deliverance minister. One of the types of infestation, if you want to call it that, begins with the idea of a familiar spirit. That is biblical.
Yeah.
And that this familiar spirit in the book Hostage to the Devil, you find out has a boss, the big boss. Reminded me a bit of Zelda, where you beat Ganondorf and you discover that Ganondorf is not really the big boss. Suddenly Ganon shows up. In this, the familiar is always present and wants you to use your free will to give it permission to latch onto you. And by latching onto you, it then gives permission to the big boss. It's a really good read, and I found it on Kindle for next to nothing. So, Malachi Martin.
Yeah, I just started reading it the other night and plan to read it as well. Excuse me, but the excerpts from The Gates of Hell that we just posted on our Substack account this past week deal with summoning spirits from the netherworld. So it's relevant, and then we've got this historical background and how these things were practiced in the ancient Near East.
And I know that the book you're writing right now, The War of Watchers, probably will include things like that.
Oh, yeah.
What the case study that I'm reading right now in Hostage to the Devil is about someone who, from a very young age, had telekinetic powers and powers of being able to read thoughts, seeing auras, things like that. But as he got older, he read Aldous Huxley's Doors of Perception. And that led him onto a parapsychology, study of paranormal phenomena, and he ends up getting into all sorts of high weirdness that allow whatever was working in his life as a very young boy to have total permission, because at one point he's asked, "Do you accept me?" And he says yes, because he likes the feeling of being a deity.
That was something that Russ Dizdar, the late Russ Dizdar, talked about in when we discussed his work. You know, Russ was a deliverance minister. Shatter the Darkness was his ministry.
And that's a great book, by the way, and I think it's been republished.
Yeah. Because, for a while it was available, but you had to go through, you had to buy like a used copy on Amazon. Some of them were selling for hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
So, it is worth getting a copy of.
Yeah, I know. We value ours.
But, if you go back into our app and do a search for Dizdar, you can find and all of the speakers or guests that we've had on our podcasts going back 20 years are tagged. So you can find the tag for that particular guest.
For Dizdar, Warren, Marzulli,
whatever, and bring up all of those interviews. So if you want to hear every conversation we had with Russ Dizdar, you can do that. And I encourage you to do it, because when you first hear his stories, and I first heard him on an interview with, this is going back 20 years now, Visigoth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Keith Hansen, who went by the name Visigoth. And I thought, okay, this sounds nuts. But I reached out to Russ, and God bless him, Russ was willing to come on, and so we talked with him and became good friends with Russ and Shelley Dizdar. And he would describe things like what you're reading about in the Malachi Martin book, with a little 5'2" skinny woman throwing like a 6'3" cop across the room. 200-pound, 225-pound guy across the room like he's a rag doll. This kind of thing happens.
Yeah.
And when it's depicted in film by Hollywood, it's sensationalized to the point where, and I think you were telling me Malachi Martin said that wrote in the book that sadly it's become just fodder for entertainment. You know, you go to these films and it raises your you get the adrenaline rush of watching the film and being scared.
Which is why horror films are so popular.
Exactly. But this kind of thing is real. And we sort of desensitize ourselves to it by, okay, well, that's just, you know, Hollywood. That doesn't really happen. Well, yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. We wrestle not against flesh and blood.
That's so true.
What Paul, he meant what he wrote. And it's more literal than most of us realize, which is sad then when we see major Christian denominations de-emphasizing it, when we see our pastors, and I speak as somebody who was raised in liturgical denominations, and our Sunday morning sermons didn't deal with the shed blood of Jesus Christ as redeeming us from these entities that want to use us, spit us out, throw us across the room like rag dolls, whatever.
Oh, I know. Isn't that interesting?
Literal intelligent evil in the unseen realm that wants to destroy us and everything that we love. Jesus is sort of reduced to being nothing more than a cosmic life coach. I know I've used that expression before, but it's like, yeah, okay, follow Jesus' example, and he'll show you how to be happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. The prosperity gospel does the same thing. If you say the right prayer, like a magic incantation, your finances will be great, your marriage will be happy, your children will grow up well-adjusted and, you know, getting good jobs. But that's not the reality of the life we live in.
That idea of law of attraction, if I speak it, if I believe it, it will happen. You know, sort of like Dorothy clicking her heels. There have been so many returns to this New Age sort of approach to life that was big when I was in high school in the 60s. That the vision board idea that I'm going to put pictures on this board, whether it's a virtual board or a literal board in your room. There are a lot of young people that are falling for that.
Yeah. That's not how reality works.
Well, no, wait.
But it's a way to open up.
It does work. That's the problem. It does work because those desires are answered by the powers, principalities, the demons, the familiars that will take your child's desire and offer it. I can give it to you. All you have to do is trust me, take my hand kind of thing, and say yes, because it's our free will that the enemy is trying to use against us. It's the same thing that happened in the garden.
And as you say, in the Malachi Martin episode, with that one case study, you know, just say yes.
Every one of the case studies, you see the point where the free will was, they had to say yes. It's like the vampire. You have to let him into your home. You have to say yes.
Was looking for a couple of stories here that I know I'd seen, and I thought I'd flagged, and I didn't see them in my my Evernote file here, regarding the failure of some of our largest church denominations to properly prioritize where their work should be. For one thing, we've got here in the United States, Catholic bishops that voted almost unanimously to condemn the Trump administration's efforts to deport illegal migrants. Like, okay, look, and J.D. Vance, Vice President Vance, who is Roman Catholic and devout, and by the way, the bishops here are following the lead of Pope Leo on this. They, in fact, released a video condemning the deportation raids as inhumane. Again, the irony there being, if you try to access the Vatican and get past the Vatican walls without, just let yourself in, the Vatican will make sure, the Swiss guards will show you the door very quickly.
I know. I love the meme that says, heaven has a fence and a gate, and you have to pass a test to get in, essentially.
Yeah.
And hell does not. Right. Anyone and everyone is welcome. Are invited.
Yeah, all are welcome. So anyway, Vice President Vance said that basically, look, you've got problems inside the church. Let's work on fixing those. But I think beyond that, let's work on dealing with the spiritual enemy. Now, at least the Roman Catholic faith, I will say this, at least they are still training exorcists, and I don't know of any other major denomination that is taking that direct an approach at supernatural evil.
And let me just really quickly, if you are listening to this right now and you or someone you know is dealing with oppression, and even going so far as the possibility of being possessed, because it's a real thing.
Yes.
It is a real thing. And if you're a pastor, if you are a lay person, and you need to talk to a deliverance minister for yourself or someone else, Greg Reed is incredible.
Yeah.
Vicki Joy Anderson is incredible.
Tom Dunn
with Through the Black, incredible. And I'm sure all three of them, Michael Lake, Elie Marzulli, there are a lot of people out there who this is one of their callings, if not the calling upon their lives. And don't just sit and worry or fret or think you are all alone. This happens. And we want you to know you're not alone. You are not alone. You don't have to give in to that seductive spirit.
Yeah.
The Lord Jesus Christ loves you so much. He died for you, rose again, and he is coming again. He lives. And it's his precious blood that covers you.
Yeah.
So you can call upon him. You can call his name. In fact, the fallen realm don't like his name at all.
No. One of the things I found really interesting is I read about half of Malachi Martin's novel, Windswept House.
Oh, so good.
Which, opens with a scenario. And Martin later was interviewed and said about 80% of what's in Windswept House is true.
Real.
He just changed names and fictionalized.
Same way with Hostage to the Devil, changed names.
It opens with a demonic ceremony which was intended to enshrine Satan in the Vatican. And this took place, about the same time as Vatican II. And they did it.
That's not coincidental.
And the ceremony was not done in the Vatican because that would have been a little too difficult to pull off without somebody noticing. But it was done via telephone link to
North Carolina, I think.
Charleston, South Carolina.
South Carolina.
And there was...
And wasn't Charleston chosen because it's connected somehow to, Freemason...
Pope Pike, Albert Pike.
Pike, yes, Albert Pike.
I don't know. It didn't say. That's not in the novel.
Well,
I suspect
then I'm thinking of something else. So,
but Charleston, South Carolina.
Forget you ever heard it.
And it is on the 39th,
I think.
Let's see. 39th or 33rd. It is... it is 33rd. Yep, 33rd to 30.
Well,
it's actually 32.5 north, but it's close enough. 33rd parallel. Anyway, and there were a number of things that were part of that ritual that I thought were really interesting. There's the ritual din, which was a noise that was made by banging various items. The bowl of bones. And the reference to Jesus, they didn't ever mention his name, but they called him the nameless weakling. That I thought was really striking.
Yeah.
Would not even speak his name, the nameless weakling.
That's the exact opposite of what Christ really is.
Yeah.
He is Hashem. He is the name.
Yeah. Interesting. Last night I was writing the section, a chapter on the book of First Enoch, and how that second section of First Enoch, which, by the way, we're going to come into at the end of the month, assuming we do a study. Well, I guess we wouldn't on Thanksgiving weekend, but the last Sunday of
We
the month.
might. We'll see.
Yeah, because we've completed the book of the Watchers. Now we're going to move into the book of Parables, which is that second section, which even though it's the second section in the book, it was the last one that was written of the book of First Enoch. It's written, there are 5 sections to the book, and chapters 37 to 71 was the last one completed, and it was completed just before the birth of Jesus in the last 10 years, say,
And it anticipates
of the
his
first
birth.
century BC. And it really anticipates, you're right, it anticipates his arrival because it prophesies the coming of a new, of a Messiah. They call it the Anointed One, the Chosen One, or the Son of Man.
Yes.
And it's interesting that in chapter 51 of First Enoch, it mentions that this Son of Man was named before the head of days, like the Ancient of Days, before the creation of the world, before sun and moon. And so it's clear in First Enoch, that section, that he is not a created being, that he was named before the head of days, before the creation of everything. So he was, it's like John chapter 1.
Yes,
in the beginning was the Word, and
Yeah.
the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
Yes.
That's in First Enoch. And that is not something you'll find in any prior Jewish writing. That's not in the Old Testament. It's not even hinted at in the New Testament,
Well,
the Old Testament.
there's a belief in the second power in heaven, at least there was.
Yeah,
And when the Christians said, we know who that is.
yeah. After the 2nd century AD, that was anathema among Jewish teachings. So anyway, yeah, it's really, really interesting that 2,000 years ago, Second Temple Jews were so, anticipating the arrival of the Savior. And the political situation leading up to the birth of Jesus was very turbulent, which I think helped fuel that, anticipation. Boy, these Romans really stink. We really hate these Romans, but at least they're better than the Parthians. And the Armenians almost conquered us too. Anyway, but while we've got all of that going on, here we are 2,000 years later, and we've got Roman Catholic bishops getting themselves involved in, immigration disputes. The Anglican Church in the UK has now gone totally woke. They've the new Archbishop of Canterbury, Sarah Mullally, is as woke as she's global warming, which, by the way, now there are articles coming out saying due to a change in currents, we have to worry about global cooling again. You remember going back in the 70s and 80s,
I know.
that was a thing?
I know.
New
but that's
Ice
why
Age.
it's
Oh,
been
no.
called climate change.
Yeah.
That way it can go any direction and they can say
Exactly.
it's our fault.
Yeah. So there's that.
By the way, speaking of climate change, have you seen that there have been at least 2 CMEs, coronal mass ejections
Yeah,
from
this
the
past
sun?
week. It was-
Yeah, another one was yesterday morning. Big old CME. I looked out I always get up at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, sometimes even earlier. Sometimes I get up before it's even, the
Sometimes
next
you
day.
get up before you go to bed.
I know, pretty much. Looked out this morning using the phone because that's how you can best see auroras. And we're way south, so we shouldn't be able to see any of them. But it looked to me like there was maybe a hint of something. Nothing like what we saw a few days ago when, they were green and red and purples and all sorts of amazing colors in the sky down here in southwest Missouri, which is way too far south. But that was because of the solar storms and other activity in our atmosphere caused by the CME. When this CME, the coronal mass ejection, happened yesterday morning, it seemed to hit mainly Africa. Yeah, there were some big power outages in parts of Africa because of it.
Interesting.
Now, remember the event in, what was it called?
The Carrington event.
The Carrington event. Thank you very much. In the
Yep.
early 19th century, there were telegraph wires at the time, and that was pretty new. And those lit up
Yeah.
because the CME hit Earth just right.
Oh, yeah. There were telegraph operators who got zapped out of their chairs and stuff like that. It was not, that was really
If the
powerful.
Carrington event and equivalent were to happen today, we would lose some satellites,
Oh, yeah.
and a lot of our internet would go down. And that includes, satellites would include the geospatial satellites that help with the navigation for airlines.
Yep.
I hear a couple of dogs that are sort of, hey, mom, in the crate. So I'm gonna take this off and then go let them out.
Well, getting back to the Anglican Church.
Sorry, but I just wanted to explain that because it was a big story.
Well, we can't hear you now because you took your microphone off. So I now control the con. The point about the Anglican Church getting really woke is that there's now been a formal schism within the Anglican Church. There is a conservative aspect to it, a conservative movement within it called the Global Anglican Future Conference. They're arguing that the Church of England, with the appointment of the new Archbishop of Canterbury, has moved away from them. So they have now become the Anglican communion, and the Church of England, even though the Archbishop of Canterbury is the nominal head of the Anglican Communion, this Global Anglican Future Conference says that no, we are the Anglican Communion, the Church of England is right out, and the Nigerian Church, the Church of Nigeria, which is the Anglican Communion Church in Nigeria, they have cut all ties with the Church of Wales because the Church of Wales has just appointed an archbishop who is openly lesbian. So they're saying, look, this is pagan. This is not even Christian. This is pagan.
The UK has simply capitulated.
It pretty much has in a number of ways. But again, getting back to Martin and spiritual warfare and the reality of it, I think we're seeing denominations focusing on things like this because they don't really think the other stuff is really real.
They don't.
And because if they took that stuff seriously, they're like, okay, look, we can worry about all these other things. We need to deal with the real enemy, which, as Paul wrote, are the powers, the principalities, thrones, dominions, cosmic rulers over this present darkness, supernatural evil. That's who our real enemy is. We need to quit tearing at each other.
Yes.
And focus on that.
We do. And the enemy has been conquering through division and through diversion.
Yeah.
Let's get you focused on something else that's not really spiritual.
Yeah. And let's make you believe that you can create heaven on earth, which is fundamentally Luciferian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the idea that, once again, you can upgrade yourself through certain activities.
Yeah.
The idea of you shall be as gods.
And I guess one final note, because we are running out of time, running close on time anyway. Artificial intelligence. There are a lot of aspects to that. We talked about how AI may be overwhelmed or commandeered by an external electromagnetic force. But there are those now who are saying you can use AI to create avatars of deceased loved ones so that 30 years from now, when your kids are grown, dead grandma can actually come back from the grave, so to speak, and speak to them.
Yes, you and I talked about this when we were still in St. Louis. We've been discussing AI and this idea of resurrecting the dead for a long time on PID radio because Kurzweil, that was the whole purpose of his activities in AI, and he was head of Google's AI division for a while. Ray Kurzweil wanted to resurrect his dead father. Yep.
Well, now there's a company out there called 2Y, numeral 2, WAI. Ever wondered what it would be like to talk to Shakespeare and ask him all your burning questions? Now you can. Start chatting with history's most iconic, only on 2Y. So, yeah, but you can move on from there and just add But you can do this to a small extent. I mean, I've used Grok, as you have, to animate images.
Old images,
of our, I've got an image of my dad in his mid-30s, and kind of waving to the camera now.
I know, and it's kind of fun to see. But no, I don't want to resurrect my father. My father's with Jesus.
Exactly.
I don't need to actually try to talk to him here. But you know what? If I didn't have a Christian worldview,
Yeah.
I might be tempted to try something like that.
Exactly.
Particularly if you don't actually believe in real bodily resurrection
Yeah.
through Christ.
Yeah.
The only way that I can ever, communicate with the dead loved one, it's not real.
Right.
Or is it? Or is it? Because in the Old Testament, we see a lot of examples of ancestor worship.
Yeah.
In context, Derek and I, and it's part of your book now, we've been writing about this for years.
Right.
The idea of communicating with your dead loved ones.
Yeah, it is.
Through an intermediary.
Right. Mediums, necromancers. We the example, the only example where you see an actual spirit of a dead person coming back is when Samuel is allowed to come back by God to deliver a message to Saul. But the medium cried out with a loud voice because she was expecting her familiar spirit.
Exactly. Familiar spirits are a big thing. What if this AI version of a loved one who's passed on then says, I'm hungry. The only way that I can survive, I am really here. I'm in whatever place.
Yeah.
And if you would just make an offering to me, then I would be able to survive. Imagine a child hearing that from a dead grandma.
Yeah. I need you to sacrifice your cat.
Or start out with, can you just put a little glass of milk here for me?
Yeah.
And maybe a cookie.
I was exchanging notes with a friend, and I don't want to identify where he is or just for his own, safety. But he's in another part of the world. He's in another continent. And he said that is part of he is Christian. His family is not. Many in his family are not. And there is a tradition amongst those of that faith tradition that they have to offer food offerings for some period of time after the deceased passes on. But this continues all over the world with, in Madagascar, the rewrapping and the dancing with the deceased ancestors, the little shrines to the ancestors in nail shops or whatever. People in Vietnam, Christians who are oppressed by their neighbors because they don't venerate the ancestors, and the neighbors are upset thinking that the ancestors will come back and be angry with them because the Christian neighbors aren't performing their familial duties. This all goes back to the ancient practice of the Amorites and the Hurrians. Essentially, it all goes back to Genesis chapter 6 and Mount Hermon. And the spirits of the giants destroyed in the flood that have deceived humanity ever since into thinking that those spirits, are our ancestors. And they need food and drink. Isaiah condemned this in Isaiah chapter 65. Sacrificing in gardens and making offerings on bricks, sitting in tombs and spending the night in secret places. That's a condemnation of the practice that we heard about on Sardinia. Incubation. Sleeping in the tombs to draw power from the spirits of the dead.
It's giving permission for possession.
Yeah. And Isaiah goes on, who eat pig's flesh and broth of tainted meat is in their vessels. There's a scholar named Deveau, a French scholar, who wrote years ago that he believed, based on his research from the ancient texts, that the only reason, because pigs were forbidden in other ancient Near Eastern cultures as well, not just among the Jews, that the only reason they were even bred in the ancient Near East was to offer them as sacrifices to the dead.
Yeah.
And tainted meat, it's known that the Greeks and the Romans would have a feast for the dead on the third day And in Leviticus, you could eat the meat from the sacrifices on the first day and the second day, but anything on the third day was forbidden. You had to burn it. You could not eat it on the third day. So anyway, it's that whole third day thing is a real theme in the Old Testament.
Oh, it is really.
Anyway, the bottom line here is that all of this is real. This is not imaginary. And sadly, many of our mainline denominations treat it as though it's just a psychological disorder. Well, he only thinks he's being possessed. He just needs, his body chemistry to be adjusted.
Well, we had an interesting episode today.
Yeah, we did.
For those of you who are interested, we'll have the old people report. I'm fine. Just getting over my cold.
Yeah.
Derek's voice, by the way, is not necessarily his cold. It's just the voice he has now, and it's probably part of whatever autoimmune disorder you're dealing with.
Yeah.
You see a pulmonologist.
Next Saturday, I've got a video consult with a pulmonologist.
Yeah, finally. And you also see your neurologist on early December. So,
so
you've got
weeks.
some appointments coming up that if you would just be praying about that Derek could get some answers, because it's, as many of you know, many of you are dealing with chronic issues as well. And it's one thing to deal with those symptoms. It's another to deal with them and not know why they're happening. The bottom line is that the Lord allows these things for his reasons.
Yeah.
In many cases, he's allowing it for his reasons. When we're able to give a name to whatever the set of symptoms is, it gives a certain, sense of relief.
Yeah.
Okay, now I know what's wrong with me. Now the doctor can do X, Y, and Z because there's a protocol for that.
Right, yeah.
But when it's just a mystery question mark hanging over your head, it makes it even harder to deal with.
Yeah. The initial diagnosis was possible CIDP, which is chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy. And that might be it, although that also often involves difficulty in swallowing and brain fog, and thankfully I've not experienced either of those.
Another possible ability was myasthenia gravis, but that also involves swallowing problems, things like that.
Yeah.
Both of them have brain fog, and you don't have brain fog at all.
No, thankfully not. The protocol that I've been on, thanks to my primary care physician, has put muscle back on. I don't know if you watch 5 and 10, you go back and look at the things from like March and April of this year, 8 months ago.
Skinny Derek.
Yeah, I had dropped 20 pounds and without any change in my diet. That was disturbing. And thankfully the weight has come back, and it's come back as muscle, which is interesting. I can see why guys do steroids.
So you look pretty healthy from, if
sitting in front of a camera, I look, fine. And, so people may be a little surprised when they hear I'm being wheeled around the airport in a wheelchair. My balance is the issue because my feet are essentially paralyzed. They're dead weight. So I need the cane to keep balanced. And when I walk, I have to do all the work with my legs. I can't push off with my feet.
It's the same thing for driving. You have to actually lift your foot up off the gas. You can drive, but you also have double vision. So I've taken over the driving tasks. So
that's kind of what's going on here. And again, with my fingers, I can still mostly use them. It's just that, again, there are certain things that are more difficult than they used to be.
Buttons, things like
that's why if you watch 5 and 10, you notice me wearing T-shirts under jackets now instead of button-up shirts and ties, because buttoning buttons and doing ties has become more of a challenge.
And also, sweatpants, things like that are just easier to deal with.
Right.
So,
old man pants with elastic waistbands.
Hey, Rabbit, own that.
Like, old guys have been hiding all this cool stuff.
I know, all
the
the cool stuff.
Yeah.
But we really do appreciate your prayers. And I recently put a post about needing to rehome our dogs on Facebook, and most of you were so supportive of that. There were a few that
didn't quite
voiced
understand.
some disappointment, and perhaps you just don't know us very well. Trust me, we love these dogs. They are family to us. But my number one job This is how I see my number one job is to look after Derek. Derek is first and foremost to me. And I love the dogs. We raised Glory from practically day one. She was only 10 weeks old when we got her.
And Grace bonded with me
She did
from
immediately.
minute one. Immediately.
It's primarily Glory. She is just young enough, and she's part Border Collie, and so she loves to circle around things. And when she does that around your feet as you're walking, it becomes a hindrance to me. And I have no problem walking with balance. There are times that I have to really watch it. You've fallen in the house once because of that. And I do not want you to fall again.
Especially being on Plavix.
You're on Plavix. And so if you were to fall and strike your head on the edge of a coffee table, you could have a brain bleed and it would be very bad. So trust me when I say that we have thought through the issue of rehoming our dogs, or at least Glory, very, very carefully and very prayerfully. We would like to do it before it becomes an emergency.
Yeah. And this is the reality. I mean, we're not trying to be alarmist or anything. We're just looking at things realistically. That if Sharon were to suddenly
I'm
fall,
73.
and break a bone, with me being in my balance issues, we're just one accident away from the two of us needing to be in an assisted living situation.
In fact, we're kind of looking at the possibility of moving into that in the next year or so anyway, just so you are close to health professionals that if something were to happen, they could be there within 5 minutes to look after you.
Yeah, get one of those little necklaces where you hit the
I
button.
know,
I've fallen and I can't get up.
We would continue to do ministry. We would continue to write books. Everything would be the same. It would just, we would be living in a different location. Or, looking at the possibility of maybe some help in the future here at the house. But if you just give us your prayers, we really, really would appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, we'll be back tomorrow morning with another Bible study. And
we will be.
There will be an Iron and Myth episode on tomorrow night.
That's awesome.
Judd Burton was able to connect this time, so we've got more cowbell. Yes, Iron and Myth now with more cowbell.
Oh, I love that. He needs a T-shirt with a picture of himself and saying more cowbell.
Dr. Cowbell.
Dr. Cowbell.
That's based on a comment somebody made. It's like, Judd Burton is my cowbell. More cowbell. So tomorrow night we'll be talking about the book of Jasher.
Ooh.
Which actually in Hebrew is Yasher.
Yeah.
So that'll be tomorrow evening. And again, please subscribe to our Telegram channels and gilberthouse.substack.com. And until next time, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I'm Sharon Gilbert. And for Grace and Glory, who are running around in the backyard, bye-bye, everybody. We love you.
PID radio is on the air. Politics, prophecies, and conspiracy. Peering into darkness is what we do. Derek and Sharon.